Hey everybody, my name is Jared Malott. I'm here with my good friend Mateo Coltist. This is the Coltist, season 2, episode 9, aka the Nick Foles episode. And the reason being is simply it's episode 9, right? He
Yeah,
wore
we
number 9,
just
just
checked,
like it could have been Jacob
Yeah,
Eason, but Nick Foles did
it's
win a Super
we're
Bowl.
going with former Colts to play a quarterback because number 9 for the Colts currently, Jawan Winfrey.
Mhm.
And completely honest, I covered this team. I worked daily with this team. I had no idea who he was before that, before I checked. So yeah, just a quick, admission of guilt.
Yeah, right. I don't know what he does either. What does he do?
Wide receiver. I don't think he got a single time. I think he's on the practice squad. Like I don't think he's on the active roster either because otherwise I think we would have heard of it.
Yeah.
Let me check if he had.
Six
Yeah,
one
no
two
targets.
ten.
Oh, he did get a target.
Drafted in round 6 to Denver
Yeah,
from Colorado. No, he has no catches on the season.
yeah. He had a single target against
Single target.
the Saints. He didn't catch it, so
That's along the lines of why we've never heard of him.
yeah, yeah. So I mean
Probably
that's fair.
probably plays special
Yeah,
teams for
perhaps
the
on
Colts.
special teams. Yeah,
Yeah. So obviously we are recording this podcast after the Colts have just beat the Bucs 27-20. And if you remember, brother, the last time we had a podcast, I said, hey, you know what?
yeah.
Those like next 6 games,
They look winnable. Yeah, you
those
said
look
it. I mean,
winnable
you
to
can.
me. And a lot of people laughed at me and said, like, no, like Colts are bad, defense is bad, team's gonna lose. One of them, I'll even call him out, Chris Sherpa, said Tampa can score, and that means the Colts are gonna lose. And obviously we're just poking the bear, but yeah, Colts get a big win. Obviously, anytime you win at home,
Yeah, that's always nice. Yeah,
it's always nice. But now, I don't know about you, but after finding out Jonathan Taylor is going to have a procedure on his
yeah. He's gonna
thumb,
miss. Yeah,
and
he's
he's
gonna
going to
miss.
miss some time.
Yeah, I believe it's a couple of weeks right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up. I wouldn't, with how the Colts handle injuries, like I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up not playing again this year.
Just kind of depends. Zach Moss gets in there and tears it up, right? He's playing for a paycheck too. You know what I mean? You may not need it. You may not need him. It's an interesting spot for the Indianapolis Colts to have 2 really good running backs in the same on the same backfield. You know what I mean? So one guy goes down, next guy steps up and is going to deliver.
Yeah,
I have no doubt about that. Here's my question though: Colts are 6-5. This would be what I call a tough road game, as
yeah,
opposed
yeah.
to
Titans away is always tough.
playing the Bengals the following week on the road. That would be a winnable road game against the Bengals team without Joe Burrow. That's fair, right? But this is a rivalry game. So this is an AFC South opponent. Records don't matter.
Yeah,
Uh
Will
his
Levis also had to, just like a little parenthesis. Will Levis' family, like 60 of his family are going to this game. Titans fans are treating this like a sort of like a revenge game for him because the Colts didn't draft him and they're saying like, oh, hey, Will Levis will be fired up. He will be ready to go. He'll want to kill you guys.
mm,
And, I'm like, hey, bring it on. Like,
yeah, but
I
absolutely.
want to see his best. Like, I want to see Will Levis trying his harder and failing
Mhm.
for us, to tell Titans fans like, hey, you're a rookie quarterback. He's trying his best. He really wants to beat us. And he had like, one touchdown, 3 interceptions, lost. Hopefully, if all goes well, that happens.
Yeah, and I always struggle internally to, like, you don't want to oversell, undersell any contest, right? But what I'd say here, Colts already beat the Titans this year at home. Um, and it's just like you said, I kind of want the best out of my opponents. I want it to force us to play to a high level, and I don't like it that I feel like anyway, lots of teams play down to a down
Yeah,
opponent,
yeah, it happens.
and get up for big games. So they're real competitive when, they're either not supposed to win or it's supposed to be a close game. And then anytime it ain't supposed to be close, uh, they play down to them and make a bunch of mistakes themselves. I saw some cut ups of play designs out of Shane Steichen that had um is like a guaranteed run. That's a run, but the receivers are running routes. And that is completely meant to make Gardner Minshew feel like they haven't had to completely redesign the offense because he's at the wheel. Because they have. And it teaches me something about continuing to spread people out and run your offense. But maybe with a less athletic quarterback or someone who's less of a play creator, dialing
Yeah,
back your RPO game without shutting it off, right? So obviously, I can say with full confidence, you ain't running an RPO with Gardner Minshew. You're strictly running or strictly passing. And that's you watch the games, you could tell.
yeah, of course.
But I did find a cut up exactly what I thought was going on. Is it not necessarily limiting him, but and again, to say it is like say it out the side of my mouth. Like they are kind of they're doing what Gardner's capable of without taking him out of the offense and trying to give him something else. But here's the thing: Colts have won 3 games in a row. That's tough to do. Period. Right.
Yeah,
In addition to that, Colts last few wins, 2 of the last 3 not against the best in the league. So it's not like you got a big measuring stick. But this Titans team, there's like what, like 4-7. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
four
Like
and seven. That's correct. Yeah,
so, road game. The Colts are favored to win by like a point. It's supposed to be a tough game, but again, this is really one of those things where I don't think it's that close. As long as Gardner Minshew doesn't turn the ball over, that's been pretty apparent. And then while my mind's on it, we ought to say thank you and goodbye to Shaq Leonard.
yeah,
Since
yeah. We were, yeah,
last time we spoke, the Colts
and
have
we
parted
spoke
ways.
about how he was like we talked
You
about it
did.
on
You
the
did.
episode
You
about
said
how
he was
he was.
cuttable.
Yeah,
And it
and
happened.
I'm afraid, that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like we
Don't make
said,
any
hey,
more
he was.
predictions.
Yeah, he was not playing well. Like we said it,
No,
but yeah, I mean, he was always a good member of the community.
great
He was
locker room
fun to
guy.
watch.
Everybody
He
liked
gave
him.
us, yeah, he gave us a lot of good memories.
Mhm.
So, wish him, of course, wish him nothing but the best here. I mean, he was a class act. I mean, even when we was waived, he did not have anything bad to say about the team. He handled it with class.
Yeah. He even
So,
went
yeah,
and handed
real
out
classy
turkeys
guy.
after he got cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah. and,
Um,
and that speaks about his character and the type of guy he is, and he seems like a really stand-up guy. I mean, he seems cool, like I want him to succeed. I mean, if he signs with the Eagles, I want him to win a ring there and hopefully be happy and regain his playing form. Like I wish him truly nothing but the best.
yeah. So the latest I'd heard is he'd met with the Eagles, he'd met with the Cowboys. He's going to take a day to make a decision. So, uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I certainly hope some fair winds follow him. It the thing about this though is that this wasn't that hard of a decision, and again, I'm
no,
not trying to insult you when I say this, but like if lowly us, lowly you, right, could sit and watch a football game and go, that guy that gets paid a
yeah,
whole
that
bunch of
guy is
money,
not playing well.
I don't
Yeah,
even know if I want him on my team. And then in a less than a week, he's gone like that. And it's like, hey, it was pretty apparent that he was not back to where he had been playing. And then also, I found it striking that no sooner is he gone the next game, and the guy that steps in to play his position gets a pick in coverage. And you're like, remember those splash plays that we were talking about? There it
yeah,
is,
it didn't
right
happen.
there, because that guy is like ready to play at game speed. That was one of the things I saw early in the season, where if I remember correctly, because I just started coaching football, so I'm still new to this, but the linebacker period their first couple steps is in the run game. So they're always check run first. And then if you got to go, you got to go. Right. And so I'm thinking about, and this is before the cut ups we saw where he blatantly missed tackles. And you're like, whoa, he was making those. He was making plays on those plays. Wow, it's a far fall. Before
Yeah.
this, there's a clip, and this is probably like week 3 or something like that. But he, his first couple steps at the beginning of the play are run, and then he has to get back into his zone, and the ball just goes over his head completion, and you're just like they don't even do that in Madden. You know what I mean? Like they're
Yeah.
better at getting back to their zone. Uh, when you're talking about robots, you know what I mean? So he just
Yeah.
when we talk about like game shape, that's kind of the picture I'd paint is like, man, in coverage, he couldn't even get back in time. And it's like, are you paying somebody nearly $100 million
Yeah, you're not. Yeah.
not be a good enough athlete to get back into your zone? No, no, no. Um, and to piggyback on that, um, I was thinking about, do you ever watch Raw Room? So
No.
it's one of the top podcasts. It's a YouTube podcast. It's like 3 former NFL players. One of them's King Dunlap, um, and I can't remember who the other 2 are. I can't their names, but like one of them is like a DB coach for Seattle now. The other one played DB at LSU. Anyway, they were talking about kind of like when do you know when it's time to give it up. And I thought about this in reference to Shaq Leonard. Uh, they were talking about the conditioning test. I don't know if you've ever had this conversation or heard this before. I'd never heard of it before, but like now I just got introduced to this. So they were talking about their experience as players coming back after the off season and taking a conditioning test. This is like to be part of the team. Like you get cut,
Yeah.
you don't make this. And not only do you have to be able to complete it, you have to complete it, it's timed. And so as we're cutting Shaq Leonard, my brain is being introduced to this thought process, and I'm thinking like, oh, I guarantee you he wouldn't be able to complete a conditioning test timed.
Yeah.
Like he can't play enough downs. He doesn't have the gas to be a multi-down linebacker anymore. That's a massive liability when you can really only play him on one
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, we obviously can move on. This is not the shit on Shaq Leonard show, but I did want to point out like a graphic representation of like what the expectation is. For the record, the Patriots, their conditioning test was 13 half gassers, timed, and you had to be under time. And if you're not, you got to come back the next day and do it. And you also keep in mind, like when you come in and you're on an NFL contract and you don't pass the conditioning test and you got to come back the next day and do it, whatever, you still have to go to practice that day. You still have to go to the weight room that day. You still got to go sit in meetings and go all do that
Yeah.
shit. And the next day you have to show up to work early to retake your conditioning test. So as we're cutting Shaq Leonard, he's interviewing around. Think about this. If he was Shaq, do you actually think he leaves either the Cowboys or Eagles without a deal? Nah, bro. If he was any shade of himself, he gets signed on the walk-in. So this tells me that he's taking his time to make a decision. Is he's trying to figure out which sideline he wants to stand on.
Yeah.
And it's no shade at Shaq. It's just a real. This is just how the NFL is. It's a very much athlete driven. And I try to think about how does he like fit in, and I just wonder like where and how. That isn't just him crawling back to the Colts and say, you know what? I think this might be the twilight. I think I'd rather just re-sign with the Colts, take no money, come back and I don't want to have to move somewhere or like
Yeah.
either I sell
Just
my
yeah.
house. Like if I was him, I'd beg back on. You know what I mean? That's what I'd be thinking. I'd be like, man, I'm going back to Indy, right? Because I want to believe, right? I want to believe in people. But one of the things you can't do, at least I don't think you can do, I don't think you can become a better athlete during the season. I don't think that's possible. I don't think you can get better conditioned, you know what I mean? Be more ready. I think you
Yeah.
go
That's
the
yeah.
other way. I think your body breaks down over time and over the course of the season. So
Yeah.
for
That's
me,
fair. Yeah.
it's tough to see like a guy gets cut from the Colts when you have tape. You and I have seen him. And again, it's mostly in jest. Of course we know what we're talking about, right? But it's like if Lolio
Yeah,
us
but yeah,
can
if we
sit and
if we
see
can
it
say that we watched the
with
game,
the
just
naked
once
eye,
or
we're not
twice,
mhm,
at most, the linebacker coach that rewatches all the tape and all the stuff that they are putting out on tape, like he watches that for a living. He does that, that's his 9 to 5,
yep.
and he has been doing that for quite some time, and he knows when a guy is doing his job and when a guy is screwing up. Like if we too can tell, like, hey, Shaq Leonard is mostly screwing up. He's not looking well. He's been paid a shit ton of money. I mean, it's basic. Like you do the logical thing, and you also say like, hey, Steichen has been kind of ruthless. I mean, he cut Deion Jackson like right after week 1 when he was supposed to be the lead back. He had a poor week 1 against the Jags. Bam, he's out of here. Like he's ruthless so
Yeah.
far. And you're like, hey, yeah, he's getting cut. Like no matter. And I think you have to think about Shaq
I
Leonard
think he
was by
raised the
far,
expectation, right?
yeah, he
I
did
don't
raise
think
the
Shaq
expectation.
I don't think anybody thought Shane Steichen was gonna come in here and be a hard
Yeah, he was
ass.
gonna have, yeah, or he
And
was gonna have the balls, to cut.
he's got these boys thinking they can win. You know what I mean? Like, and again, this isn't taking anything away from the Colts. Uh, pretty middling. Numbers are numbers. But game
Yeah,
management speaks to something that a lot of times data can't. And the Colts don't have an elite quarterback. They do have an elite run game. Um, they do have a top 10 receiver, like we were talking about before we started recording. Michael Pittman's eighth in the NFL in receptions, and he's about to be a free agent. So I think when you cut Shaq Leonard, it's to pay Michael Pittman to stick around. And I also can say in the same breath, I think you're cutting Shaq Leonard 100% of the time. I think that you're re-signing Michael Pittman some percentage of the time. So where my head is with that is Chris Ballard is preparing for the attrition that comes with another losing season, right? And that is preparing for the worst. And you do hope for the best. You do hope Colts can stay healthy. They can continue along this path where they've handled business 3 weeks in a row against a divisional rival, right? Somebody who in recent memory has gotten the better of the Colts too, right? Not to the level the Colts was getting in that ass, right? Colts for a long time was all over Titans like a bad habit. Especially Andrew Luck. Wasn't he like X-1 against the Titans? And now it's
yeah,
against a rookie quarterback. The team's 4-7. They still got King Henry though, and that's
yeah.
the
He's still dangerous, and he will still be
he almost got
dangerous
800
against the
yards
defense.
rushing, man. Like he's still going
Yeah,
for 1,000 to 12 to
and we
1,500
and we
yards.
will not have Robert Stewart. I mean, I think
Nope,
this is the
still a
final
week
game
away.
that he misses.
Hmm. And
So I mean, he could have a big game.
yep,
He's not the same guy. I mean, he's definitely not the same guy he was before, but he's still a good running back.
yeah, that's what I was saying. Like,
Yeah,
and has given the Colts problems in the past. Has been the bell
yeah,
cow. And the Colts, when you look at games the Colts win, and obviously this kind of goes without saying, right? When you look at the games the Colts win, they're winning because they're shutting down the opposing rush game, right? And they're not able to get their offense going. And that's how the Titans are going to be able to keep up with the Colts if they're able to consistently run the ball on first and second down, set up second and medium, third and medium to short, and help that offense and that young quarterback feel confident. Hey, you only got to get a 4 yard completion here. It's a first down. We move to change, keep
yeah,
it rolling, right? That could pose a problem for the Colts because the one thing that I haven't really seen out of the Colts, outside of maybe some long runs, is that the Colts are not an offense that's quick to score. The
yeah.
Colts are
No way.
methodical, a very well planned and organized offense, right? They'll move the ball on people. They're score a high percentage of the time. And that's one of the things that we'd kind of been bragging on the Colts is that even in games they're losing, they're scoring like 30 plus points in the NFL, bro. That's hard to do,
Yeah.
right? So obviously, I really like the position the Colts are in, especially given, and I actually really like the division, right? The division has shaped up a lot better than I thought it was, right?
Yeah, Texans
Texans have been a
have been a
wonderful
surprise.
surprise. Jacksonville has
Jaguars
filled
have
the
been,
they
yeah, they
filled
have
the
been
billet.
better.
You know what I mean? Like when you
The
thought
Titans,
about what was going to happen this year, I thought Jacksonville was going to fall off. Like I thought, oh man, it's really hard year to year to be good, and you haven't been good, right? So you had a touch of that last year, and like, can you maintain it? It's really hard to do. Do you believe that much in Trevor Lawrence? No, I don't. He's a good, he's not great, right? Well, they're 8-3, right? And they're winning the division, running away.
yeah.
So
Texans have surprised everyone.
yep, Texans
I mean,
surprise,
I don't
Jacksonville.
think anyone had them 6-5 through 11.
No,
And the Titans are the worst team in the division, and they are 4-7. I mean, it's not that bad.
no, no. Uh, but I think of any of the teams in the division, and I guess this comes off as a dig, but I don't want it to be. It's just true. In my eyes, Tennessee is the team in the division that's doing what I thought they was going to do. Right? I didn't think they was going to be very good. Um,
Yeah,
I didn't think Houston was going to be good either. And again, like I said, I'd always question like, can Jacksonville handle the limelight? Right? Can they handle being good? And then as far as the Colts, we don't know. They only won 4 games last year. They had the top 5 pick in the draft, and that guy got injured, right? Like, what expectation could you have possibly had with all those once all those things start to unroll, right? And then add into it, I'd argue, outside of losing your quarterback, that oh, and my brain forgot what his name is. Right as I was going to say his name, the guy that we just talked about, that's suspended, that still has a game left. Like losing him for 6 games was supposed to be your death knell. Like you
yeah,
weren't supposed to win when your quarter like this brand new shiny quarterback you got, and then your zero tech, your big defensive tackle has been rolling everywhere, right? With Buck, uh, is out for 6 games. You weren't supposed to win any of those games without being able to have like a really good guy to plug the middle, right? So to have won the Colts, to speak to the Colts, to have won the last 3 games, to be above 500 at this point, I think that has to be a welcome surprise. I think that if you're a Colts fan and you're watching this game on Sunday and you're saying "fuck the Titans," I hope we beat them bitches, because I can't imagine them getting to talk shit after, you know what I mean, bringing us back down to 500, taking away a little bit of
yeah,
shine.
definitely.
No, we sat here and we said, man, if you really look at this, the tail end of this Colts season, I think I'd said I could see the Colts losing to the Steelers and Texans to close the season. I can see that happening. The other games, I think you could win those games. Hey man, that's like 10 wins. That's that's like potentially playoff material. Um, I don't know that you can sustain it, because when you think about the number of contests left, it's just like injuries are going to hit eventually, and it's going to unravel. But I'd like to think, as we were kind of saying earlier, where good teams show up in big games. This ain't necessarily the biggest game of the year, but it's a road division game, right? Like you get excited for these contests. This matters. We see these people twice a year, right? Um, so I think Colts get up for this game and get a big road win, and then are like 7-5. And again, if you'd have told me before the season starts, Anthony Richardson plays 2 games, Grover Stewart gets suspended for 6 games,
Yeah,
uh, Jonathan Taylor is a pain in
misses
the
the
ass to
first
start the
4. Yeah,
season, and then breaks his thumb. And he's gonna
Shaq
miss time
Leonard does
too.
not play. I mean,
Shaq
Shaq
gets
Leonard is not
cut.
even. I mean, he gets cut because of how bad he played. Jelani Woods, also your number one tight end and breakout player
Mhm.
out. You're still. I
It's kind of
mean,
winning despite
and
all
you
of the
could say, I
challenges,
mean,
right?
like how would you put the Colts playoff chances? At this point, like if you had to say you were
Very
like a
good.
betting house, but I mean, give me a number. 1 to 100. Give me a number. I don't want to
44.
push you. 44 seems very specific.
44%. Like, I think
Yeah, I
your
agree
whole
with
life
that.
is a coin flip, but like I've said, like we just listed them. They've had like a lot of things happen that are taking really important players away from them and off the field, and somehow they're winning anyway.
Yeah.
And this speaks to Shane Steichen, and that was one of the things we talked about before the podcast. So, hey, we got to start floating these ideas because apparently we speak it into existence, brother.
Yeah.
But we had said like, if Shane Steichen is not the NFL Coach of the Year, I don't know who is, although we're hearing Sean Payton. That's what I
Yeah,
heard.
or
Um,
D'Amico Ryans perhaps had also
or
I
D'Amico
also been
Ryans in
hearing that.
Houston, which again, to close the Colts season, man, wouldn't it be nice to beat someone that you see as like another really good coach in the first year head coach, rookie quarterback, absolutely defying expectations. I mean, I'll put it like this, like I'm doing really well in fantasy football this year, and Stroud is my quarterback in both leagues and has been for weeks. And it's just like he's a rookie. It's been an incredible journey for him. I really like this Stroud kid, by the way. Um,
Yeah.
early in his NFL career as a young starter, hosting damn near the whole team at his house, cooking them food, and then like forcing these boys together, knowing like, hey man, it really is, you know, and it's kind of funny I say that. I go to say that and I'm thinking about my team, but it really feels like when you're a coach and you're with your players, it's like us against the world. Like they're outside of this room, there are wolves, right? And like they want to take this apart. They don't want to see you succeed. They don't want to give you a time to build continuity, right? They just want to see you fail so they can do something else, like a cut Shaq Leonard, right? Like you was talking about, like cutting Deion Jackson early in the year based on a single game performance, and it kind of speaks to like the winning attitude, what it takes to win, what it takes to move the needle, right? And I think if anybody's done that in the NFL this year, despite all the bad things, like the things that happen to football teams, Shane Steichen is my runaway winner for Coach of the Year because D'Amico Ryans hasn't suffered the attrition
Yeah.
and maintain like he's got a shiny new toy that he ain't broke yet, right? Colts have a lot of veteran players, like a lot. Are they veterans? Yeah, they're all veterans. So like all these veteran guys, with the exception of AR, like either get cut or injured or suspended, right? These aren't like young players that are playing spots. These are 3, 4 down players, every down guys. The Colts are without and winning despite. And so like I said, for me, it's like who else in the NFL has that level of attrition in terms of like star power and is still winning, right? And it's just like that doesn't happen. And then also
Yeah.
to lose your shiny new quarterback, and to have to start a guy like Garner Minshew, and again, no, this is no offense to Garner Minshew,
Yeah.
he's not a starter in the NFL. He's a goddamn good backup, and I hope he's a backup next year. I'd love to see him back. He absolutely has. Again, Colts just won 3 games in a row, so he
Yeah.
absolutely
Yeah.
get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a
He
good. I
also
mean, he's a
lost
good
3
backup.
in a row, so that's also happened in the same
Yeah.
year. But that you say all that to say, um, I did not expect to be sitting here with you 12 weeks through the season and saying,
We have a
despite
good chance
all
to
of
make the
this,
playoff. Yeah.
44%. You know what I mean? Like maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'm a little leaning on don't just because at some point somebody gets hurt that really matters. Right. Oh, and I think about it and it's like, man, I feel like I'm full of shit. Ryan Kelly was out for a while too.
Yeah.
That's your center. You usually don't win games when you don't have your center. Um, hmm, man, maybe he is really that good. Really got him really fired up. You know what I mean? Maybe Shane Steichen really is that dude. Which is so goofy because if you listen to the audio of him on the sideline, you're like, he's a nerd. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has
I
a
saw that.
big gasp of air. Like, oh yeah, he's definitely a good football coach. We're very lucky to have him because I think a lot of teams fold under this pressure, right? And so with what we got left as far as time, I figure we ought to talk about the other team we talk about, right? Because this is not just an Indianapolis Colts podcast. We also talk about the Indiana Pacers too, because we're both fans.
Yeah.
The Indiana Pacers are in the
9 and
middle
7.
nine. Well, what I was kind of thinking is like they're fighting two battles, right?
Yeah.
And it's clear to me, if I'm being very results oriented, that the Colts are heavily focused on getting as many minutes for their young players and playing to their potential in this midseason tournament, more so than the regular season. Now, Pacers play tonight against the Heat. It's just a regular season game. And then in a few days, they catch the Boston Celtics in the next round of this midseason tournament they've made the top 8 of. Pair that with there's reports coming out. Tyrese Halliburton's top 5 player in the league.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, it's also fair to point out Domantas Sabonis is like a top 10 player in the league. So it's like, man, that's a trade that worked out for both parties, huh?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's as close to a win-win as you will get.
yeah, I mean, most of the time it only works out for one is, and it just so happened 4-0 and blowing people out in this little midseason tournament with a young basketball team. And the young basketball team that's like 12, 13 players deep, which is in today's NBA, that's insane, given that there are players that think, hey, me and one other dude, and we got this, right? I'm not a believer in that, right? I'm a believer in it takes as many people as you can that are competent to win a basketball game. The Pacers obviously right now are a 6 seed if the playoffs started today. But like I said, if the record matters, it's pretty clear to me they're taking that midseason tournament a lot, and they're treating it as the playoffs. They're preparing for that as though it's a playoff game. And I appreciate the hell out of that as
Yeah.
somebody who's been a fan of the Pacers, and we ain't won nothing in forever, right? It's good to see them having success in a tournament setting, right? That sets up your season, right? I
Yeah.
still think with the way you look at the way the minutes are spread around, I don't think they've got their rotations nailed down yet. I still think that they're sliding guys in and out. You need a little more of a set rotation, need more guaranteed minutes out of players. You can't have a guy plays 30 minutes one night and 0 the next. And you just need more continuity and consistency across the board, and that regular season record will get better, right? But like I said, with this is it is called a mid-season tournament, but it's like an early season tournament. With that early season tournament, you could tell that the players put all of their coins in that basket and said, like, we need to really focus on being really competitive in this tournament environment to give our players a lift to push them into the playoffs, right? Because again, I think tactically, if the Pacers get into the playoffs, they're a nightmare for people, and
Yeah,
not for
definitely.
the usual reason that teams are a nightmare. Usually, a good defensive team is a nightmare in a tournament setting. Pacers are scoring like 130 to 150 points a game, bro. Can you do that for 7
Yeah.
games? You know what I mean? That's where I am on the Pacers. It's like fast forward to the playoffs. Just put them boys in the playoffs. I bet you they can get a series or two and be real exciting, maybe make the finals, right? The
Yeah. Who
conference
knows?
finals. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go so far as to put the Pacers in the finals. I'm not delusional. I'm just saying there are a lot of teams. How do I say that and not sound like a clown? There are plenty of teams in the NBA that don't even play 10 people. They don't have the numbers. That guy doesn't exist on our roster, right? And that would be what I look for when I watch teams like the Heat, right? How top heavy are they, right? Are their starters all
Yeah.
playing 30 plus minutes? Okay, well the
Yeah, no
Pacers
way.
should be
Yeah.
beating a team like that isn't very deep, has to rely on 5 guys. Dude, you should run those guys out of the gym. That's just a conditioning test now.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of conditioning, but yeah, I'm again thoroughly impressed. Um, the only thing I'll say that has kind of caught me a little, Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker going to the Mad
Yeah,
Ants,
going
getting
to jail.
recalled.
Yeah.
It's not a knock on them. I'm willing to bet you they wanted to make
Yeah, you
sure that
need
they were
time.
staying in game shape because they weren't getting those kind good of minutes, right? Part of this 12, 13 player rotation. Let's drop you down to G League, make sure you stay in game shape in case we need to recall you. And you never know who gets banged up and then you get inserted, right? But keeping I don't even know if they get to play. So I'm saying that I got no bullets in the gun, right? But I'm saying like when you're those are both first round draft picks. And I think about hey, they didn't cut them. They sent them to G League for further development and then
Yeah, for
recalled
them to
them.
get, yeah, the playing time.
Yeah. Um, and again, I'm trying to recall in years past where young players were getting sent down and recalled from the G League. Obviously, the G League's pretty like new, but say all that to say like if you can develop Jarris Walker and Ben Shepherd into depth, that's like 14, 15 people, man.
Yeah.
That is so hard to play against, especially in a series. And it makes me be like, man, they just need to tighten up their rotation and win a bunch of games, right? Because I would rather not be clawing into the playoffs. I would rather you run out of gas at the end and you're already in, right? That feels way better than having to fight and claw. Your every win matters all the way to the end of the season, right? Because you didn't get it done. Um,
Yeah.
and obviously everybody's got to stay healthy. Big game tonight. The Heat are a stalwart in the East. They've got a great coaching staff too. So that'll be what I'm
Yeah,
watching tonight
it
is
will be a good matchup.
the
Yeah.
little coaching battle between Spoelstra and Carlisle. I think that is interesting. It makes the game more interesting because, like I said, when you just look at the numbers, and that's not what I'm doing right now. But like, if you just look at the numbers, um, there aren't very many teams in the NBA that have a rotation that goes past your second team. So when you think about why are the Colts or why are the Pacers winning football game? God damn it, Jared. Why
Yeah,
are the
basketball.
Pacers winning basketball games? You're winning basketball games because you have fresher legs on the floor and scoring is really hard. Like I was talking about this before we started recording, where it's like if you think if you think it's not a conditioning battle, go run yourself until you're tired, then try to shoot. You got nothing. You got no power coming out of your legs. It's all arms. You're gonna be short on everything.
Yeah.
But when you've got 10 to 15 people that are in game shape and can give you minutes, man, those top heavy teams that only have a rotation and a half, right? They're gonna
Yeah, you
struggle.
can. Yeah.
So yeah, again, it is kind of funny, man, how much it's all turned around since you and I started sitting down
Yeah.
talking about because part of the
Yeah,
reason
yeah.
that we're even talking about the Indiana Pacers is because the Colts seem to be approaching a decline, right? Where it was like, man, they've been playing at the high level for the whole time I've been a fan, but since like 2018, it's just been kind of
Yeah, it's
rocky,
been
right?
downhill, yeah.
And at some point, you're gonna lose. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to think about it, but like Quentin Nelson, your lineman, right? Those boys' time is gonna pass, right? At some point, those boys are going somewhere, and they're still gonna play. You know what I mean? And so, like, if you don't get it together and give them a reason to stick around, you're gonna lose them, right? And I think if you can cobble together a winning season, um,
Yeah, that goes a long way.
goes a long way. And one of the things I want to make sure I say on a podcast, what makes really difficult to watch the Pacers is having to watch it on Bally Sports. And I hope that the Pacers are really good because I want it to force Bally to sell and put them on a major cable
Yeah, major
provider,
network, yeah.
whether it's YouTube. I'd love to see them go to YouTube or whatever. But I want my team to be more accessible and not just me, right? Like it ain't just me that I ain't slinging a $20 a month to watch them. It's like, well, I know lots of people that can't afford that, right? And I get it. It's the same argument as like people can't afford to go to the games. I call your bluff. They're like $5 to $8 Pacers tickets.
Yeah.
So the Pacers are super affordable to go see. And obviously they're winning. They have a better than 50% chance to win and make the playoffs which is not what I just said about the Colts, right? I said I'm below middling on them. I'm
Yeah.
just being realistic. But yeah, I think that, man, that got me in my feelings there for a moment where I was like, man, it's kind of turned around. At least in the short term, right? But that's why we get together every week and talk about it, because it's the games change. The NBA and the NFL, these are week to week leagues. You could be, the next time we talk, uh, injuries have decimated both teams. They're not able to do what they was doing, and now they don't have the same sort of power that they had. But again, I do want to go back to the thing about the Colts. And the more I think about it, the more surprising it is that the Colts are winning despite all these major, I would call these all major losses, right? Like you said, you just cut Shaq. Jonathan Taylor's out for a little while. Um, man, lost Anthony Richardson. You didn't have Ryan Kelly for a few weeks. Grove got suspended, and you're
Yeah.
winning despite that, and having a
Yeah,
winning
I mean,
record despite
yeah.
all that. It speaks to the Colts being a quality organization. Chris Ballard, Shane Steichen, absolutely putting on a masterclass of how to kind of win despite all of the things that are going to happen anyway, right? So, it's a wonderful dose of reality, right?
Yeah, of course.
So, hey, I don't know about you, my man. Feels like we kind of hit all corners.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, we'll get out of here. And again, this was the Cultist season 2, episode 9, the Nick Foles episode. So, of course, like, shout out Big Dick Nick,
Yeah, shout
wanting
out.
former Colts quarterback.
He
Uh,
gave it his soul.
the Super Bowl winning quarterback from the Eagles that the Colts had as a backup, or as a quarterback.
Yeah.
But yeah, happy holidays, everybody. We'll see you next week, brother.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.